What if I told you that regulators are now helping truckers more than ever? Coming up on
From deep inside the Truth in Broadcasting studio, located in Truckin City headquarters, where opinions fly faster than Maverick's F-18 and myths fold like a house of cards. Get ready for the most unique live show challenging you to believe what you see and learn something new every day. Featuring the El Rushbo of Truckin' News, Mr. Attitude himself, your host, Deviator.
That's right. It's the man himself, man with the plan. We're still learning this equipment, by the way, and we're upgrading. We're making your experience better here at Truckin City with Attitude. Still haven't given this show yet a formal name. I've got to work on that, but let me know in the comments if you believe the audio sounds good. I've kind of tested it before we started it, and I think it's okay. One of my guests think it's okay. So if it's too much, if it's too over the top, too El Rushbo, let me know. I got some adjustments I can make here. I can make a big production out of it. If you're joining us on YouTube, thank you for joining us. Become a subscriber. Truckin City News is on the way to keeping Main Street accountable. We are all about truth in broadcasting. We want to make sure that you guys know everything you need to know about doing the job, getting it done, news that Main Street will not tell you, and making trucking great again. We are well on the way to do that. So if you wouldn't mind, take a few moments. We are the only call-in show. We are the only place that I know of on the internet taking calls from truckers and guests and people all over the country wanting to ask amazing questions about, different things in trucking. So we'll show that studio line number here shortly, and we'll get underway with taking your calls as well. We are joined today by one of our more popular guests. And if you want to become a guest on this show, simply look down in the chat. I didn't pin the comments, but somewhere in the chat is a StreamYard link. You're welcome to click on it and become part of the panelists. And also, when the number shows up, we'll do the phone calls as well. So definitely let me know in the chat where you're calling from or where you're watching from. I'd certainly like to know who I'm reaching and who I'm not. So that would be some good information. All right. So with all that out of the way, the official business, as it were, I would certainly like to give you guys the opportunity to be the voice to make trucking great again. It's real simple. Chat with me in the comments, call in on our studio line, which I will publicize here shortly, and pay attention. It's about to get real. We have with us the grumpy old trucker in the house. How you doing, Frank?
Oh, morning, boss man.
How's things with you today on the Oklahoma front?
Well, sunshine decided to hide for a while, but other than that, it's decent. There ain't no rain right now.
Right. That's it. In the Carolinas, last I heard, it's still doing nothing but pouring down rain. God knows. It's been doing that the last few days. I'm not in the Carolinas. Right now, I'm hanging out in southern Louisiana right now off of I-10. So I'm hanging out here having a good time.
Yeah, you're on my time.
Oh, whoopie-doo. You want a cookie? My wife's got 10,000 of them.
I bet.
We'll talk about that after the show. Anyway, so I started out with regulators. How are they helping us? Well, here lately, I've seen a couple of news segments that come up about trucking insurance. In fact, I even did a video, which after the show, I will link down below and let you guys know, hey, I've got some videos on trucking insurance. Now, I don't know it all about insurance, but when I see a story that highlights measures being taken by people to make a positive effort in trucking, I certainly go about wanting to broadcast it and give my opinion because that's what this show's all about. It's really opinion. Um, I certainly want to do my part in letting people know what's up with truck insurance, truck regulations, and everything trucking related. So talk for a minute about a story I pulled up, and I will link this in the description below. Um, State Bill 583 out of West Virginia. Okay, this is one of many, and it goes basically to a number of states that are enacting legislation to put caps on economic damages. And now, recently, I put up a Jersey story. That was the video that I put up, I think about 2 weeks ago. That highlighted New Jersey. There's also been other states that have also gone and joined the um, many that are doing this, and they're highlighting, all the necessary things for trucking insurance. So bear with me. I'm looking at my notes here, my show notes. Maryland recently, lawmakers considered raising a cap on economic damages, non-economic damages, if I can get it out right. I have not had enough of this. Bear with me, folks. A proposed change would more fairly compensate people for pain and suffering, which is fine. Alaska has put in caps on punitive damages to nearly $7 million. California, any great surprise, California is one state that has not done anything about economic caps. That's no great surprise there, but, um, a number of states are jumping in and putting the brakes on lawsuits. Now, why does that matter? A lot of you probably don't give a crap. I think it matters because, when it comes down to it, trucking insurance is way too expensive already. There have been numbers floated about that, we've had almost in the last 2 to 3 years, actually last 4 years, a 35 to 40% um, rise in insurance, mainly for the smaller fleets. Yeah, it says here, created rising annual rates of up to 35 to 40% for smaller fleets from the years 2016 to 2019. That was a study that was done by either Landline or Overdrive, one of those two. Again, all the information will be linked down below. Like I'm just throwing random facts at you. But I think it makes a crucial difference because, here we are. We're out here trying to make a living, and insurance companies aren't going to fight for us. They don't care. They don't, to them, it's money, it's profit. And it's been proven time and time again. So, it's just a matter of, okay, what can we do to raise the profit margin this year? If you got to look at some of the minutes, you can clearly see they're in it for the profits. So, um, that's the information I have on that story. Let me ask you in the audience, if you have access to your computer, your phone, or whatever, drop down in the comments below an answer to this question. Do you think that capping non-economic damages in trucking lawsuits is a fair approach, or do you think it potentially hurts the industry? What do you think? Come on the panel, let us know. Join the fun, and if you're feeling froggy, go ahead and give us a call. Lawmakers are delivering, I think, in the right direction. I got to see if I can find my studio line slide here. There it is. Call us at 860-785-3547. 860-785-3547. Once again, we are the only show taking calls. If there are others, well, I'm the only show that has me. So there you have it. I am the boss man. I am the one looking at these stories, and I am trying to change trucking. One video at a time, one load at a time, one person at a time. God bless it. So what do you think, Frank? Do you think that economic caps or non-economic damage caps, whatever I said, do you think that's the way to go? Do you think that helps, or what do you think?
Mm, yes, and I think they need to make sure that it's capped for certain things, just like regular insurance is. So, I mean, if you lose a limb during an accident, that pays a certain amount. You know, loss of life pays a certain amount. You know, I mean, damages to just the vehicle and no damages to the human being, certain
Right.
amount. I mean,
Right.
it's they hopefully they've thought this out to where it'll be stipulated to, you know, a stair stepping situation where they know how much they're going to cap it out to on each item.
Right.
Because if you get crazy with it and they just go for the maximum amount, whether
Right.
they lost their life or just were injured a little bit, like a head injury or something like that,
Right.
excuse me, then you're
Well,
looking at
it's a hell of a comparison to make, but let's take, for example, and I'm just throwing this out there. By the way, our friend from the north, Poet, is in the house. He says it's more than fair. I'm glad you feel that way. And again, remember, every state has set different limits. Florida considered 10 million, I think. Our normal friend from Driving with John should be joining us today, and if he does, he can confirm that. But I think they're setting at 10. Um, uh, Jersey, as I recall, I think 15. West Virginia is now what we're seeing here, 5 million. I don't recall any other cities or states rather putting in any different amounts, but let's just go out on the wild side here on the limb. And I'm not saying this to create controversy because Lord knows there's enough of that around this entire problem. But using our discussion as a heel toe approach, what about the people that were involved in this Baltimore Bridge disaster? First of all, before any comments are thrown or anything is said, my heart is aching with remorse and condolences for those who lost their lives working on that bridge. I mean, as workers, you don't expect that kind of thing to ever happen. I understand there may have been maybe one or two cars that may have been on that bridge. I'm not sure about that, but just imagine, you go to work, you go to, drive along a highway, and all of a sudden, boom, it drops out behind you. You know, but in terms of economic damages, if let's say, for example, there was a car driving on that bridge, which I don't know if there was. I've heard both sides. There was nobody because they blocked it off in time. There was somebody. I don't know. It's hard to confirm or deny, but let's say
one
there
of
was.
the news stories I actually posted to the group. Actually, there was a news media
Yeah.
out there in that area actually said that there was an 18-wheeler confirmed that was going across at that time too. So we've lost a
Yes,
brother
but
there.
they
So
did confirm. Yeah, they did confirm he did get off the span before it collapsed. So that was a good thing. I know the story you're talking about, but I challenged a couple of the people in the group the other day because I saw a quick, it was a time lapse thing, and I thought for sure there was an ass ton of cars on that bridge, but
mm,
I looked at a story, so whatever person I challenged and I gave him some crap. Sorry about that. You know, I just, I didn't have enough facts, but then that goes part and parcel to what everybody else is doing about this whole thing. Everybody's reacting and they're not taking the time to get the facts. So I'm nobody different. I do the same thing. So yeah, our provinces and territories, he says, all have different caps. Well, I think that's more than fair because, different provinces, territories, whether you're talking about Canada, whether you're talking about down here in the States, all different areas have different kinds of suits or kinds of, kinds of insurance differ, policies and needs. And, you'll have a level one trauma center in one city where you'll have to fly out to another. So, yeah, there's a lot of differences in there. So I kind of get it. And yeah, that's, I personally, I am of the mindset that it can really do nothing but hurt us. So, um, let's talk about it from another standpoint. How do you think limiting lawsuits, and again, people, put your answers down below. I'm not seeing phone rings. So, if you're feeling froggy, Give us a call here at the studio line, 860-785-3547. We're talking about legal reforms with truck insurance, putting non-economic caps on lawsuits, trying to end lawsuits in trucking. How do you think limiting lawsuits against trucking companies could impact road safety and accountability to all those companies out there? I mean, think about it. How many companies? I'm about to watch somebody take out a scale. Hold on a minute. Ooh, 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 ooh. Dude, you almost ended your career. God bless you. You were looking. Dude was coming around a scale. You know the big yellow pillars that sit right next to the dude was like this close. I mean, I thought for sure just the vantage point. I thought he was going to hit it. I was like, you're going to hear a loud crash in a minute. I was going to narrate. But I mean, think about it. Back to what I was saying. Think about it. I mean, in a large sense, I mean, all it takes is one angry lawyer. And I mean, I say that frivolously. I mean, because I don't know lawyers. I don't care about lawyers, but all it takes is one. And you get companies like all these fly-by-nights, and they're all doing, different things too with, trying to beef up the safety rating. I don't know if you saw that in freight waves a couple of months ago. They're trying to make changes to the safety system to get rid of some of the bad companies. I hope they do. But until then, I mean, you've got a number of companies out there that just do not care. They don't pay attention to safety. They don't pay attention to careful driving practices, and they're just out there killing people. Now, I get it that angry attorneys need a job. Okay, I get it. But what about us? What about us guys out there? And I speak for the majority. I do speak for a majority because I have a clean record. What about us guys out here that actually toe the line? We do what's required. We do our pre-trips. We maintain our trucks. We take more than adequate safety measures to make sure that we get the job done every single day, getting the load where it's got to go and getting it there safely. That's where I think those attorneys need to actually stop and think, okay, maybe it's not necessary. Talk about the big outfits that self-insure. Oh, yes. I was about to get to that as well. Thank you. And then you got those that Poet talks about that self-insure, and basically what that means is you gotta put up a bond. It's a $10 million, $20 million, whatever. I don't know what the exact thing is, but they've got a cash investment somewhere sitting there so that in the event certain things happen, they pull from that and make a settlement or payout. In those cases, they're not required to have the same kind of insurance the rest of us do. Personally, I get the benefit of that. You can kind of mitigate your insurance expenses a little better. Fine. I don't know what other benefits you get from that, but because I don't know enough about that side of the business, but Poet makes a good point. People do that because they have the assets available and they have the ability to control the money flow. People like you and me don't. What do you think, Frank? I mean, in terms of the question I asked, I don't know if you want to opine on what Poet said either.
Basically, kind of like what Poet was saying there is the factor, these guys that are, you might as well say like an owner operator more or less, that have their own insurance and bondage sitting to the side. I mean, yeah, I mean, that could affect them due to the factor that if they've only got a 1 million bond or a 5 million bond, and then they go somewhere and they have an accident and then they wind up getting sued for 10 million, there goes all that money. Plus they're going to still be paying out.
Right.
It's going to damage them pretty hard. I mean, it's going to hit them right in the pocketbook, and it may bankrupt them.
Never know. Yeah. Never know.
Like these other companies that are out here, like some of the big companies, example like Swift, Warner, such like that. Most of them actually have their own set aside insurance companies themselves. I do remember, I think it was Crete that I worked for, where they were self-insured. So they've got, a set aside amount that's made for paying out. But there again, the capping thing may be good in some extent because like I said, they won't be able to go over that no matter what. So, say God forbid if somebody lost their life and that family goes in and sues, but that state only allows $5 million. That's it. Then they're not
Well,
going to be able to go and get
and then
10
there
million or anything like that.
and then there you've got the dangerous question that always floats. I mean, how do you value a life? I mean, losing a
Hmm.
life, a settlement for losing a life is a whole lot better than maybe dismemberment or just um, a life altering injury. So I mean, juries, people, insurance companies, all of them look at it so much differently.
Well,
Um, I mean, what would you say? I mean, if now in West
this
Virginia,
is.
if you had an accident where, let's say, your wife was in the truck and she died, I mean, hard thing to say. I mean, it puts you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Mm,
Well, let's say it's a family member, a close family member, somebody that you're really close to. Um, you know, you're going to be pissed if all of a sudden now you're limited to only $5 million. Is that gonna replace, the companionship you've just lost, or
of course not.
yeah, yeah, it's not going to replace any of that. So there's going to be a lot of people out there. They're going to be like, "Are you freaking kidding me?"
Well, like my wife
But
said, money is money. It's not going to replace, the
no.
person you love, no matter how you
No.
look at it. And that brings to me to another subject that from going to different orientations and stuff through the years as a driver.
Mhm.
One of the things, one of the videos I watched, and I'm sure there may be a driver or two out there that may have seen this. There's a lot of insurance companies that'll stick to it too. They'll say they'd rather pay out one time as to
Mhm.
pay out over time.
Right.
And that basically means, hey, you get in front of us, do a brake check, you end your life, they'll pay out one time and that's it. But you get in front of us and do a brake check and then they get hurt, and that's why these cameras are a good thing. That's a whole nother
Yes.
deal. But still
Yes.
yet,
If you don't have a
they get
dash cam, you can make that investment, please.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you wind up getting hurt and then that insurance company has to pay out over time. And God
Yeah.
knows how long that could last. Because
Mhm.
there's no cap on that.
No.
So I mean,
There's not.
you're looking at lost wages, lost time, all that kind of stuff, and that gets really expensive because there's a lot of. I've actually, I don't know, it's been a while, but I was reading some stories on where big companies have been involved in lawsuits like that before all this big thing with the dash cams and all that, and they were sued and they're still paying out to these families because they can't work anymore. So I mean,
Right.
you're paying a wage to somebody that's sitting at home. I'm sorry that they got injured and it's a small chance it was their fault. It's a 50-50 deal, you don't really know the whole story.
Right.
But, it gets insurance is so outrageous anymore that even a personal car, I mean, down in Texas, my cousin was just telling me the other day, what we pay up here, it's like 3 times that amount down in Texas to have it because there's so many accidents,
Yeah.
crazy
And I mean,
drivers, and everything else.
and that goes to another benefit. I mean, think about it. If you're putting a cap on a state for insurance, shouldn't that also put the same type of cap on maybe what you pay every month? I mean, because think about it. Your point's a good one. If you're living in let's say hypothetically, and I hate Newsom, you bug me. But if you live in California, you're paying a lot of money for insurance, you know. But then all of
Hey,
a sudden, there's the man. You won't even let me give you the intro. Oh my word! Just barges in on my show, and you got to get rid of that echo, my friend.
yes.
Give me one
Yeah.
second.
All right. But you take insurance from California, and
Yeah.
then you pit it against insurance, let's say in this case in West Virginia, and it's day and night. The difference in what you pay is astronomical. I mean, um, back when I owned my truck, I was paying on a monthly basis around, I'm trying to estimate because I had several types. Altogether, I was paying around $2,200. That's when I owned my own truck.
And that's
But
a
that's
month,
my
right?
monthly. That's monthly,
Yeah.
yes, that's monthly. So, I mean, but that was me. I was starting out and it went down over time. It was fine, but I mean, that was my first hit. It was 2,200 bucks a month. It was incredible. But, at the time I'd had, well, let me see, it was 2017, just under 4 years worth of total driving experience. So I thought it was justified. I didn't complain about it. I paid it, dealt with it. Now today it's a whole lot cheaper, thank God. But I mean, more to what we were talking about. You take two different states where you domicile in one state and pay one rate, then you go to another state and it's completely, different. John, welcome to the show. Welcome to the fun. We're talking about non-economic damages with relation to insurance companies, and some of the great debates are going on about what benefit would have if more than one state. I hadn't gotten to that question yet, but I'll pose it to you because you're the man that's late in the house. What do you think would be a benefit if, instead of going state by state, which I pointed out at the start of the show, and cap economic damages at different levels, what do you think the difference would be? And would it be a boon for the trucking industry if we decided, let's do this federally? What are your thoughts, John?
I'll answer that question, but I've been listening and I got something I got to say.
Okay.
So I understand the premise here that they're trying to keep the lawsuits as low as possible, but in reality, they're just writing a check. Oh, if I sue, I get this amount. They already know how much they're going to get. I think the biggest problem in the whole situation is lawyers chasing after trucking companies with fraudulent lawsuits that actually win sometimes. That's what makes insurance rates ridiculous. If they'd stop that, I think the other would be a moot point.
Yes, I kind of agree with that. I mean, because that right there, and I touched on it earlier, and briefly mentioned the fact that, angry lawyers, or did I call them angry lawyers? Well, anyway,
Yeah.
ambulance chasers, if you will. I mean, they are the ones that ruin it. You've got fans in the house. My daughter's popping in on my break to say good morning and hello. Well, good morning to my dear daughter. I think my wife is joining us somewhere. If not, she's mobile and probably can't, so she's probably here. Poet says, morning, John. So yeah, you come in and everybody climbs in and suddenly decides to participate.
Hey, I'm sorry my job got in the way.
No, man,
so,
don't apologize. Don't apologize.
So
Not at all.
I think this is a great conversation for multiple different reasons, but besides the fraudulent lawsuits, which there are more than we could ever count on a daily basis, where literally there's bulletin boards going down the highway where they're advertising, hey, you have a trouble with a trucking company?
Florida is famous.
Contact us. We'll sue you for it. No, it's not. Actually, I see a lot of that across the Midwest, Indiana area, especially. But I'm just saying that that's a big problem. But I don't think caps are a horrible idea. I think they're treating a symptom of a problem, not the problem itself. So that's the biggest thing I would say.
Well, and like I was saying, whenever Boss Man brought this up, the factor of it is they should have tier levels to each part of that. I mean, it depends on what happened. I mean, like you're saying, if it's a fraudulent type case anyhow, but they can't pin it on there and prove that it is, but they're just saying, oh my back kind of thing. Yep. Should they pay out over time for that person, or should it just be lump summed and that's it? See, most insurance companies are going to just go for a lump sum and be done with them.
Guys, if you're watching this and you're wanting to chime in, go ahead and give us a call, 860-785-3547. That's our studio line. Drop a comment. If you're joining us on Facebook, certainly be sure and go down below, look underneath That's Truckin Facebook. It leaves the stars. That'll help me. This here wasn't cheap. The camera you watching me on wasn't cheap. Let's try helping me make trucking great again by allowing me to keep up all of this stuff and do this in a good way. I want to make big differences little bit at a time. So give us a call, give us your opinions. We'd love to hear from you. Poet, my thoughts. I like this already. Insurance should be international. Both sides of the border should be the same. Now, I didn't think of that. I was going on a federal level, but nice point, Poet. What are your thoughts, John? What do you think? Should it be an international? Should it be just all across the board? Everyone's the same. What are your thoughts?
I think people that make a lot more money than me should make that decision. I don't
Well, I
know.
mean, it affects you when you think about it. What
Well,
do you pay
here's-
every month in insurance? What do you pay every month in insurance?
I'm a
Don't
company
be
guy, so
specific. Don't be, yeah. I mean,
I'm
but
a
think
company
about it.
guy.
Whatever you pay, let's say something happens with your company, and all of a sudden now you're told, well, your insurance rates are having to go up because of what happened. How fair
Yeah.
would that be? And it's
Well,
happened in the past, you know.
Here's the thing. As a company driver, I mean, I've been an owner operator and a company driver, so I understand the insurance thing.
Yeah.
As a company driver, it doesn't affect me as much because the company handles all of that. Now, it
Yeah.
does affect me because if they get sued for millions or billions of dollars, they're not going to be able to afford to pay me what I'm getting paid. So that would be an
Right.
issue, obviously. But
Obviously, the expenses will cut into the bottom line, obviously.
but the
Mhm.
problem also, going back to what Frank was saying earlier, um, it's a lot cheaper these days to pay somebody with a fraudulent lawsuit than it is to fight a fraudulent lawsuit. And so
True.
that's why they have to, that's I think why they're capping it, because what's going to happen is if you do decide to fight it and you lose, you're going to lose mega millions, where if you just pay them 5 million to be quiet and go away, it's actually cheaper than what it would cost otherwise. So, which is ridiculous, because then again, you're encouraging people to do fraudulent lawsuits. So
Right. We have another guest in the house joining us. I take it we've struck a nerve with this guy. He's known to come in and strike nerves with us from time to time. Scott from Fate Truckin. How are you, my friend? Glad you were able to
morning.
join us.
Good
Oh,
morning.
here we go.
Can everybody hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you great.
All right. Yeah, I'm trying to build trucking back better, so that's what I'm trying to do over here.
Shame on
No
you.
comment. No comment.
Shame on you.
Hey,
I'm neutral.
Wait. I see where there's a common thread there. We both want better, right? We all want
Yes.
better.
Yes,
So
correct.
so let's actually
Correct.
do better, and then we're all happy, right?
Tough to do when we only have two options. Anyways,
Yeah.
I wanted
Well,
to make a comment because I agree. I've been listening the whole time. I am driving right now. That's why I'm not going to go on camera or anything.
That's fine. We get that totally. Thank you. Thank you for even contributing. I appreciate that.
But the states making these new regulations on how much somebody can sue up to, it reeks of mega carriers getting a hold of legislators in these states. Because if you look at the big lawsuits where we're talking upwards of $400 million, I think, or something like that, is what Walmart got sued for. Those are mega carriers. Now,
Right.
I understand we all pay very high insurance costs. I'm not saying there shouldn't be some sort of reform, but
Probably
what I'm
because of most of those types of suits you're talking about. So yeah, I see where you're going, and I agree. I really do.
the self-insured part is up to a certain dollar amount, usually $1
Yes.
million to $5 million,
Yes.
and then their insurance company kicks in the rest. So
Then it goes to civil. After that, it goes to civil litigation, and it's all bets are on.
Yeah.
But I think that needs to be kind of limited too. I mean, give me a break. You dent a fender, and what? You're going to get $5 million for that? I mean, I see it. I see the point you're making, but I think there needs to be a limit. I mean, good Lord. I mean, we can't.
So let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
I'm driving a truck right now that's damaged. John, you have seen the photos of my truck, correct?
Yes.
Okay, my truck was backed into while I was in the shipping and receiving office getting my paperwork.
I actually saw it also going about 60 miles an hour up the other lane.
Yeah, right. The company that hit me is a fraudulent company. So my insurance company has to eat the pay, what it's going to cost to get my company or get my truck that I own fixed.
Right.
Which will raise your rates.
Yeah, by virtue of uninsured motorists.
Yes. which they'll tell you at the time does not affect your rate.
Wrong.
Here's the thing, it's completely wrong. I just had my insurance renewal. My truck has been hit 3 times. Out of the 3 times, my insurance company has been able to collect 1 time. The other 2 times were
You sure you're
fraudulent
not
companies.
doing something wrong there, Scott? I'm picking on you.
I'm doing my job.
I know, right? Sometimes people
know.
just wind up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it's probably the same thing. I've had that happen too, but
the problem is
we all have.
I'm going to defend Scott a little bit on this one. The problem is when you have a fraudulent carrier, which we have a rampant problem with right now. These guys aren't qualified. They don't know how to do the job, and they're doing maneuvers that are just completely unsafe. So, and it makes
really
people like Scott,
someone
which
was
is an
trained.
ultimate professional, it makes him look bad because he's driving around with his truck that's all damaged when it's not his fault. So,
Poet's saying, "Hey, Scott, he's joining the fun. At least he's got some dependable internet up there. That's good. But at least he's able to watch the show. And yeah, so I mean, in terms of insurance, I mean, what alternative measures do you think we could put in to address these concerns? I mean, are there alternatives that we could put in that would kind of level the playing field? Because as I started the show out, my big thought, and part of what I'm going to close the show with my opinion is, I think we need to make this kind of a federal thing and make it so that everybody's on the same playing field. So what are your thoughts on alternatives? Scott, you want to weigh in on that?
You're probably asking the wrong person.
Well, I mean, you got to have an opinion one way or the other.
I absolutely have an opinion.
Yeah.
I believe I'm better than other truck drivers, and I shouldn't have to. And I'm not saying that like all other truck drivers. I'm saying what I have come in contact with. I don't. Yeah. My insurance should be like. No, I don't believe the federal government should step in and cap anything. But that's because I don't think the federal government should reach their hand and regulate an industry that's so heavily regulated already.
Right.
The problem isn't. It's a double-edged sword because I agree with you on having max payouts on things. I have disability insurance that I pay for. I own my company, so just like if I work for a company, I have comprehensive insurance on myself. There is maximums. If I lose a limb, I'm only getting X amount of dollars.
Yes, and that's where I was talking about earlier. I don't know if you caught that or not, Scott, when I was talking about that earlier. There should be tiers to each one of that. I mean, to where they can't go any higher depending on what has happened. If it's just, a rear end collision, but the person inside claims they didn't get hurt, but their car's hurt, they cap it out at a certain amount, which is, okay, your car's worth 10 grand. Here's the money. I mean, you lose a finger because you got smashed in a car accident or something like that. I mean, everything should have a cap limit due to the factor that a lot of these, like John was talking earlier, you got all these fraudulent people out here that they do the belly flop out of a car whenever they get rear-ended, and they're like, oh, and you're like, what did I do? And then the insurance rules in their favor and pays them out millions of dollars over time.
Yeah.
And
then I agree with you, but there is another side to that. What about when you're going down a mountain and can't read the signs on the road and you kill 7 or 8 people and cause, there's no dollar amount that anybody could give me for the loss of a loved one. I would want that company to be, bankrupt. I wouldn't want that company to exist.
Okay, and I kind of see where you're touching on. That subject is possibly had to do with that past. I'm not real familiar exactly 100% with the company or anything. I do know I dug into a little bit of the story and was watching different stories, and they all come fitting together. This gentleman that was that driver that had that accident out there really had no mountain experience. He'd done mostly all driving on flat lands with small hills, molehills, basically, as I'll call them. And then they hired him in, didn't check in to see that he had done any OTR in the mountains and stuff, and then just threw him in the truck and expected him to know what to do. And that is part of a company issue, because there are companies that do that should be looking at it. It don't matter if you've been driving for 5 years. If you have no mountain experience, you need to go with somebody that has, and train with them and understand how to operate that commercial truck going up and down the mountains properly.
That has a
in
lot
good
to do with
weather
training.
and bad weather.
Yeah. Yeah.
I fully agree with you. Although I'm also going to play devil's advocate here. It's not just the company's fault. It's if we want to pretend that we're professionals, hence professional driver, it is your responsibility as that driver to say you are not going to do that. So both parties are at fault, and you can make the argument he would lose his job.
I agree to you on that one. The factor of it is, yes, I mean, he probably should have stated on there that he had no experience working and driving in the mountains, and that would have helped him out quite a bit.
Speak English to state. What are you talking about, Frank?
Well, see, I think there's an underlying issue here, and it's the elephant in the room that none of us want to talk about. And I'm not saying this in a derogatory or adverse way. I'm saying this as an actual fact.
Insurance companies.
Someone else was talking. It's kind of going off subject a little bit, but it's on the subject too. Someone in another live I was listening to, they were talking about it, and it's so true. DIY Semi was talking about it, actually. There are a lot of people that get their CDLs. They don't speak, read, write English, which technically is against the law in our country, but they choose not to enforce that law, because if they enforce it, then they're labeled as bad names. If you know what I mean.
The majority of those drivers come out of California.
No, that's not true.
Somebody in the house, Emily's Country Live. I don't know what that's all about, but welcome to the show, Emily. And
Hi, Emily.
Also, not to cut you off, but my wife has joined the group, so she's in the house, apparently watching. So welcome.
So basically, part of the problem that we're talking about with the insurance goes into this too, because a lot of those fraudulent companies are operating, fraudulently, because they're not legal. They're not running legal. Their drivers aren't legal. They're not able to follow our laws. But if our government isn't willing to police those ranks, I mean, yes, we can act like professionals all we want, but the illegal ones, the fraudulent people, they're not going to be professionals. They're going to do everything they can to skirt the law to make a dime, because that's what they're trying to do, is make a dime.
Yeah.
So
stick around, Emily. We will definitely change your mind. She says she's not into big trucks, but hey, this show is for everyone. I don't care who you are. So
You may not women.
Oh, hey, you may not be into big trucks, but I guarantee you, everything you use, everything you buy, everything around you came on a truck.
Yes.
So we're people too. Just remember that.
Thunder.
Okay.
Stealing my thunder. Shame on you. I love it. Yeah, right. All right. Yeah, right. Big man with the freaking Apple iPhone over here.
Yeah.
So all right. Next to last question. Considering the importance of everything we're talking about, should policymakers balance the need for legal reform with supporting job growth? I mean, where is that edge? I mean, because think about it. Every time lawmakers get involved and they make reforms, something negative usually happens. I can't see a negative by putting a cap and limiting the amount of frivolous lawsuits. Can you?
Actually,
John,
that doesn't. I don't believe that limits the frivolous lawsuits. It limits how much they can get, but it doesn't limit the lawsuits themselves. Anytime the government wants to regulate something, if it was as simple as doing the right thing, I would probably be okay with it, but it's never about doing the right thing. It's always about what back-end agenda can be accomplished with that regulation. So therefore, I would prefer...
Somebody's got a hand in a pocket somewhere.
I would prefer that our government stay out of us as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
But in this instance, you don't think that it would positively affect trucking at all?
there could be a positive effect, but what about all the back end stuff that you're not seeing on that same bill that is negatively affecting us in ways that we couldn't possibly predict or see? Because every bill has that. That's one of the biggest problems
Personally,
I have with our regulations in this industry is everything
personally,
comes
I
with a
am
tail.
for. Yeah, personally, I am for every single measure that can be put into place that helps the bottom line. Because we're under enough pressure as it is. We've got pressure from the regulators to make sure that we're compliant with everything we do every day. We are regulated to death, don't get me wrong. But, we're under pressure from the market itself. We've got rates at low levels not seen in over a decade. We've got, a commander in chief in office who probably don't know what 2 + 2 is. Yeah, Build Back Better my ass. But, we've got all this negative against us right now. So my thinking when I saw this, and sorry, Scott, I call it like I see it. I mean, my thinking is right now,
Well,
anything that can
you're
positively
spreading
affect the industry.
misinformation right now. You're spreading misinformation right now.
No, that's my opinion.
Oh no,
That's my
here we
opinion.
go.
That's my opinion.
Well, I would love
I just say
I
it.
would love to see where these historic low rates are.
I'm talking
as
about low
somebody
rates.
that's
I'm talking
as
about
somebody-
low rates with my company. I can't speak for the industry because I'm not working for the industry. I'm speaking for the company I represent right now.
You didn't say that.
I've never seen them this low. I've never. Well, I do. I know I didn't say that, but
Well,
I've never seen them so low.
if you follow YouTube drama when it comes to trucking, there's a major problem with rates. If you follow people that are successful and they have contracts and they know how to work the system, there are no problems. So I think it just depends on your mindset and where you are.
Let me be clear. There's massive problems in this
Not
industry.
in your world. What are you talking? Not in your world. You're the best driver out there, and the world's always.
I just got hit by somebody that I couldn't even talk to. There's massive problems in this industry.
But in the end, the insurance company is going to cover your car. Your truck's going to be beautiful, and you're still going to be the ultimate professional. That's the best driver out there, right?
I didn't say that. I didn't say. I know I said that's not what I said. Well, it is
Scott,
what I said.
But he's going to be a ball buster every chance he gets.
Well,
that.
No, it's funny that he holds my words. I'm accountable to my words, but other people aren't.
Right.
Kind of funny how that
I get what you're saying, Scott. I get what you're saying, and to an extent, yes, I do agree with you. Yes, I did for just a moment dispel misinformation. Yes, but I am heavily of the opinion that rates do need to improve, and we do need help.
Wait.
And where I originally started going with my comment was that we have enough pressures on us as an industry. If something positive can happen, I'm all for it. That's plainly what I was trying to say.
I'm just curious. What was the misinformation? The 2 + 2? Because I've actually never heard him add 2 + 2.
No,
so I don't know
no.
I've got one for that.
We're not talking about the commander in chief.
Oh,
right.
No.
What's the misinformation?
Whether we like them or not, the misinformation was low rates. Rates aren't low.
Oh. Well, that's a perspective thing. Honestly.
Yeah, that's an opinion thing.
It's not a perspective. It's not an opinion thing. I operate a business that is profitable every single day.
In your perspective, in your market, hang on. In your perspective, in your variables, that's true. But in Landstar's variables, it may not be true.
How am I different than anybody else? They have the same opportunities that I have.
You have contract freight.
You just brought up Landstar. Landstar has way more contract freight than I do.
A lot more, yes. And even
that's
some
true,
of
they have a better opportunity than I do.
They also have a lot more drivers than you do.
I will go to my deathbed talking a positive about Landstar. Don't get me wrong. There is absolutely nothing wrong with Landstar because I still drive for them. I've operated with them for the last 8 years. I will forever defend the company's business model, but their rates do need help. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's just a fact. I don't stand alone on this fact. You can look up plenty of people on YouTube that share this opinion.
Hold on. Now, you have a right to that opinion, and I'm not arguing that opinion. I don't work for Landstar, so I can't speak on that. But what I'm saying is you have a choice. You're choosing to haul
Sure.
what you deem cheap freight instead of leaving where you are and going
Mhm.
somewhere else. You're choosing
I
to
also
complain about something that you have the power to change.
thank you.
That
Thank you.
I don't agree with.
Well,
And
no. And you start making change, and thank you for that point. That's a very good point because you are right in every sense of what you said. But I choose to make my stance as the first step to change. The
Yep.
second step to my change. Now we're not going to get into a rate discussion because this was an insurance discussion, but the second step to the change is accepting the loads I deem necessary, and those that I don't, I'm not taking. If someone offers me a $1.50 load, I'm sorry, I'm not starting a truck. You know, if
Well,
there is another load that meets my standard, I'll take it. That's where
you're
you start. It
also
starts with you. That's been my mantra since day one.
100% your choice, and I agree with
what is
that.
this guy doing?
But I'm talking.
No, sorry. Not you.
No,
Somebody's getting ready to blow up. I keep hearing beep 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 beep.
I don't know what
that
blow
down a
means,
mountain.
but he says keep fighting. We hate price. I don't know what that means. That must be peace. Okay. I have
no.
fat fingers too.
Here's the deal. I was saying that kind of tongue in cheek, as in, you know, it's your own perspective. It's true, but it's not true. And it's not complaining if you point out a problem. It's complaining if you don't do anything about the problem and you keep talking about it. That's when it becomes complaining. I don't think pointing out that Landstar has bad rates right now is complaining. I think saying Landstar has bad rates, but I'm going to continue to run them and never do anything about it and still talk about it, that becomes a problem.
Wait a
Yeah.
minute. I
Also,
agree with that, John.
what?
He
Go ahead.
agreed, and then he cut out.
No, because I thought John was still talking. I agree with that. The reason I said what I said was you said the drama on YouTube. That's why I was saying that, because I don't think it's a perspective thing. Like, and that's where if I did not feel comfortable with where I was, I wouldn't be here. I might complain about it for a week or two, and then I would be gone.
Let me change the word from perspective to mindset. Maybe that'll make more sense to you. It's a mindset thing.
I can agree with that. Yes. Yeah. Because I believe my entire channel is a mindset. Okay. Because I want to affect change and make trucking great again. How do you do that? You do that by stating the obvious. You make your opinions known. You state the obvious. You attack the obvious from the inside out. That's what I think needs always happen, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You know, I stated to Scott's dismay, I stated that there was a lot of drama with rates, and with the company Landstar, yes, there is, because I sometimes have to make 15 calls on loads to find out the rates were not published correctly, or I'll have to make 30 or 40 calls a week just to get my entire load plan put into place. Now, do I tolerate that? Yes, because, well, yeah, but I think if the rates were a little bit more transparent, I think it would be a lot better. I mean, transparency is an issue. What's up?
Wait, before we dive into transparency, I want to make sure I clarify what you mean by that. What needs to be transparent?
What needs to be transparent are all the hidden details. Let's say, for example, I call on a load that's going from, hypothetically, Miami, Florida to Chicago. Probably ain't any loads out there, but using that as an example, all right, that load's published rate is hypothetically $5,000. But you call on that load, all right, and you find out that there's hidden details that aren't published, that can be very easily published, and agents and brokers are famous for it. They've got 6 lines worth of details they can put there, but none of them do it. You know, and the problem there isn't the agents. The problem there is the brokers. The problem is the amount of hands that load goes through. And that's where the transparency
what are these details?
Goes away. The details,
what are
like,
the details?
You know, you've got to sit there and wait for a load to be loaded for 24 hours. Then you've got to wait for another 24 hours when you're at the receiver. So you've now already got 2 days into the load, and you haven't even done mile 1. You know, those are details.
Isn't that your job?
I don't want to sound
to get the details.
How many people actually ask those questions, though, Scott? How many people ask?
That's on them. Hang on,
Yeah,
hang
you're
on.
right. It is on
Let
them.
me
It
say
is on them.
something.
You're
Let me
right.
say something. As
That is
when
just
I
an
was an
example.
owner operator, and I was actually
Yeah.
trained by somebody as an owner operator
Yeah.
that emphasized over and over and over again, it's not their job to tell you, it's your job to ask. And I think
Exactly.
that's how our industry is built. You have to
Right.
ask all the questions. You have to know what to
Yes.
ask, when to ask it, and how to ask it. And
Right.
that's a process that takes time to learn, but you can't teach new guys that it's everything's transparent. That's not a thing. It doesn't exist. It's
The
not
only
going to
real
exist.
the only real external reference I've got to go on, John, is a video which I think is still public on my That's Truckin', on my YouTube channel, That's Truckin'. It's a video I published back about 2 years ago called Bad Broker Vibes. That
Oh, I
entire
remember
video
that.
was a blog
Yeah.
experience, yes, and it was a freaking vlog from hell. That entire experience could have been prevented had there been one disclosure made to me, and that's that you take this load at your own risk. It may be live load, and it may be overweight. And that entire load experience went downhill from the moment I got there because none
Can
of
I
that was
ask a
said
que-
to me.
Isn't that true in every load for trucking?
Can I
Yeah.
can I ask
no,
a
it ain't.
question though?
What's that?
That's when you had something go to hell. You know, were you a company guy or an owner operator at the time?
At that time, I was an owner operator. It was totally my choice
Okay.
what to do. Yeah.
Okay, but so that means if you're an owner operator, whether you're a carrier or you own the truck, you might have an LLC or operate like a business, right? Not everything in business every single day goes the way you want it to go.
Amen.
Like
Amen.
that's gonna happen. Even
Yeah.
with 100% full transparency, there's gonna be you're gonna come across an issue that might interfere with your day or your job or what you're trying to accomplish. Like, no, I would argue the brokers that have these loads sometimes don't even know every detail about the load.
They don't.
You
They
know
don't.
what I
And
mean?
and they can't. And
Yeah,
you know what? The
and
same as it takes us time to make these inquiries that we're so fondly pointing out, John, you pointed out, the same way that it takes us 2 minutes to inquire, it only takes the brokers 2 seconds to figure it out too. They can do the same thing we can.
right,
So
I agree with that.
Let me ask you a question though. Let's be honest and straightforward here. If you are a truck driver and you see a load that you know is going to benefit you, do you have to tell the broker, oh, well, you know, you don't have to pay me this much because this benefits me more than you know?
right.
I wouldn't tell them that.
No, but
So
we
why would
expect
you-
them to tell us that.
Exactly. Thank
Yeah.
you for
Hell
stealing
no.
my
Maybe-
my thunder there.
You did it to me. Anyway. No, I mean, is somebody gonna offer you something for nothing? Hell no. You know, everything we do out here, we got to work for. You know, so to your point, John, yeah,
It's
no,
always-
they're not going to say
In
nothing.
every aspect of trucking and business and life, you have to read the small print. If you don't read the small print,
Yeah.
it's your fault. It's not the
Exactly.
guy's fault that wrote the small print. It's not the guy that tried to manipulate the small print so that
Yeah.
they could get something out of it. It's your fault
Yeah.
for not reading it. That's just
Look,
that's
and
life.
bottom-
And I
bottom
hate
line
to
is,
put
at
it
the end
so insensitively, but it's true.
Bottom line is, at the end of the day, I'm not blaming anyone. I mean, all I'm doing with this show and with everything I learn in life, all I'm trying to do is make people aware of things. That's the whole
No, I
premise
know.
behind me talking about the news
You
story.
want to make people
We're
aware.
we're not attacking you. I want
No,
to say that up
absolutely
I
front.
know
not.
that. Believe me,
Okay.
I don't take anything as an attack. But frankly, if you want to
Yeah.
attack me for something I do wrong, by all means, I deserve it. But
Oh,
what were you going to say, Scott?
Like you just made the top or the comment that you want to like tell people, listen, this industry sucks. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
This is not an easy industry to work in. I don't care if you're a company guy, an owner operator, a carrier. I don't care if you're home every single night or you're an OTR driver like me. This industry is not easy. It is
No.
very
No.
hard. It is very time consuming. Everything in this industry is super expensive.
Yes.
You know, you
Yes.
you are working on small profit margins
Very
as
small.
small business owners, especially if you're like me and like you guys, one truck, one trailer. Like
Yeah.
that, you have a small window to make your income on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
so that goes back to that insurance thing you were talking about earlier. Would I
Uh-huh.
like something in place that my insurance didn't go up 8% every year? Yeah, I would like that. But you know what? It's part of the business I am choosing to be in. To play in this business, I have to have insurance, which
Yes, we do.
means I have to pay what the insurance company wants me to pay for my premium. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yep.
No matter,
They set the price, we make the choice. That's simple.
Yeah,
yeah,
there's no arguing with them on that deal. I mean, it's either you pay it or you don't have it.
It's
yeah,
I mean,
like it's like any other business. You're choosing to be there, and if your bills far exceed what your profit margin is, there is a point that you're going to have to realize it's not for you, or you got to do something different.
mm,
Yeah.
so
It,
I can
it's just
talk a little bit
reality.
about another industry too, because I've shared this a little bit on my channel, but
Mhm.
I have a vested interest in another company that's not in trucking, right? We talk about trucking, how expensive everything is. This
Yeah.
other business that I'm part of, their insurance is as expensive as our trucking insurance is. You
Mm.
know what I mean? It's super expensive. They
Mm.
have
Yeah.
costs that I didn't realize were as high as they were. You know, and like I said, this isn't in the transportation industry. This is in a completely different type of industry. But
so
it's
it's kind of like a workman's comp type insurance, then,
it,
basically.
it's well, no. What it is, it's a construction company. So like
Yeah.
the insurance for a construction company is astronomical
Mm,
Yeah.
because you're dealing with private, you're working on private property.
Yep.
I don't want to share too much of what this is because
No. By all
I
means,
haven't
no.
really
Yeah.
shared much of it on my channel, but
Right.
it's like I said, I'm a partner in this company.
Right.
So like we're not the only ones. You know what I mean? We talk about things in this industry as everything that's stacked against us. I would make the argument it's stacked against every small business in this country. You know
Yes.
what I mean? It's not just the trucking industry. We happen
Hmm.
to talk about it and complain about it because it's what we do. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, I
But
think
but
insurance. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think insurance as a whole, if you look over the climb of how expensive it's been, and every industry has gone up,
Hmm.
personally and business. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm an older gentleman. My auto insurance should be going down every year. I haven't seen a
Hmm.
decrease in a lot of years. But my dad, when
I-
he hit my age, was paying half of what he was paid 2 years earlier. So I think it's
Everybody.
honestly, I
Yeah, I
think
was
it's
going to say everybody's
honestly
got the same problem.
yeah, it's now I know somebody on this board is going to say something and they're going to try to ixnay what I'm saying, but I don't care. When the economy is where the economy is, things are going to cost more and the dollar's not going to go as far. It's just the way it
Yeah,
is. So.
very true. Very true.
uh-huh.
Well, on that note, guys, I am going to end this on a good note because you know what? This show hadn't really talked much on the whole thing about regulators and what they're doing. Again, this whole thing in West Virginia is being considered. It hasn't passed yet. It hasn't gone through the governor's signature, but it's part and parcel to what is going on in the industry.
Hit the
Typically,
thumbs up.
yeah, typically the reverse is always true. So what we're doing here is we're letting you guys know what's going on with stories, with trucking news, and we're making you smarter. Personally, I believe we need to keep the money in trucking and we need to keep everybody aware of exactly what's going on day to day. And you know what? You too will become better for it. You know what? Like Scott says, the industry's got a lot going against it. And it's up to us to watch our bottom line and keep the country moving. It's the trucks that make the deliveries, but it's you, the drivers, that make the difference. So, guys, Until next time, keep the wheels turning, keep the faith, and keep it rolling.